Hello and welcome to Stampscaping 101. We're going to do some stamp sketches in this video using Nature Set number 27. I'm working a little bit in reverse because I did a big scene, kind of a time-consuming scene, but I just wanted to see how far we could take this group of imagery here and just how many layers we can actually do it. The scene right here done yesterday, or was it 2 days ago, has completely dried now in terms of all the different little elements that have been added in here and the spray mount and things like that. But I don't know, I think I counted like 7 distinct layers, visual layers in here, and it's actually a little bit three-dimensional, okay? But doing something like this, I realize it's not, practical to do something like this every day. I mean, this scene took me about 2 hours to do. It was completely fun, time flew by and everything like that, but I don't know, I was going for like my record in terms of the amount of layering and depth that I could lay down in something, just because I was so excited to see what could be done with it. But let's do hopefully some, nice dynamic and elegant compositions here, but let's not take so much time to do each one. And that's something that I recommend everyone do, especially when it comes to new sets, okay? New stamps in general, too, it's a good idea, unless it's something very similar to what you have, like an animal, a deer, or something like, we know how to use, a person or something like that. But if it's kind of elements that are a little bit different from what you've used before, it's always a good idea to just do some quick compositions to not worry about, so many, steps that you're going to be doing. Color schemes, lighting schemes, etc. Okay, I mean, you can have a pretty good idea of it or something like that, but just seeing how the stamps can be used together, how they blend together, etc. Especially if it's a also if it's a type of set that is somewhat self-contained, okay? Now, I have these stamps in here, and you can do complete scenes with them. That's, it has a variety of elements that, when combined together, will give you a full composition, okay? I'm not talking about like a set that's full of, like, wolves or something like that, like one of ours, okay? But this has to be done, for me, too. I'm experimenting around with scale. I've had these birch trees, in stamps before, but I just want to see how they can be used now with kind of a further exploration of depth in terms of the foliage that's associated with these. Okay, so in doing some stamp sketches, I'm not worried, too much about a lot of the things in here. Now, here's my general concept of this one right here. I was looking at this set right here and these elements and these larger leaves in here, and I was thinking it'd be kind of cool to just have these off to the side somewhere and to leave a little bit of room for like a quote stamp or something like that. I think it would be, kind of a full graphic statement to have something like that. Before, I don't know, I mean, I think it would look okay, but just having some larger types of foliage in here, it just kind of makes more of a full statement in terms of distance. Okay, so what I mean by that is, a lot of times when I stamp scenes, I'll have something in the distance, sky, clouds, mountains, whatever, a meadow going back in the distance, and there's a lot of space, but when you have just something that's really close to you and isolated, all right, I think it helps to have some other types of depth within this kind of shallower space that doesn't have any background, basically. Okay, so we have anything from, I don't know, a few feet away that represents something a few feet away from you to I don't know, maybe those birch trees would be 10 feet from us or something. So you have that um, what do you call it? Element of space, I guess you can say. All right, so let's use a couple designs or a few designs off of this set here, and we'll see how it goes, okay? All right, now I stamped that just all in black. I'm going to stamp these leaves in kind of a variation of green. The trees are going to show through, you know, these lighter elements here. But again, you know, I'm not stressing about that type of thing right here because they're just stamp sketches. I want to get the gist of it, and then I can refine things when I'm doing, you know, my actual projects that I'll be doing this in. But I'll have these stamp sketches to reference from. And I don't know, you know, might be able to do something with this, but, you know, kind of in a, I don't know, end result, full statement. But let's see how this goes. Okay, now, I just colored this all up with black. And then I went into it and I did this thing, I don't know, I call color pulling, I guess. It's because I'm pulling off, removing some of that black ink and leaving some of this green, okay? So I feel that when I do it that way, I get a good blend of tones in here. Sometimes if you go all a lighter color and then you add the darker color on top, the darker colors are kind of leaving a very distinct line of wherever you did it. I mean, you can kind of, you know, blend it around a little bit, but I think this kind of pulling up of the color leaves more of like this blended kind of watercolor look. And I really like that look. Okay, so these are some smaller tree leaves right here. Let's see, let's go out here a little bit with them. And then I'll have some larger ones afterwards. Let's actually go in here, and I think I might be able to get a couple impressions out of it, out of one inking, and we'll try to achieve a little bit of depth with this. Gosh, can I go for 3? Dare I try to go for 3 impressions? Let's give it a shot right here. Yeah, okay. So see that right there? Yeah, I think it has a good kind of watercolory look. It's, you know, it's blended and whatnot. That's really light out there, but that's fine. Hopefully I'll be able to see some of it through some of my larger leaves that I'll overlap right over the top of it. Looks like I can even go even lighter. I think that would be cool. But let's just go with that for right now. Now I could bring some of this over on this side as well, but I think I'm just going to leave this out here for that kind of image, text, I don't know, whatever, dynamic. I always love the look of text with imagery or copy, you know, imagery with copy, you know, the written part. I mean, you can do, you know, like you can say like happy birthday or whatever over here, or, you know, just whatever you're going to put. And, okay, let's go with these leaves here. I'm going to just do these ones. Well, let's go for a little bit of black or a lot of black. What's it? I wasn't sure. Let's go ahead and let's add a little bit. My pen's real dry. This one's number 27 olive brown, which doesn't have a Marvy re-inker for, but I can re-ink it with like a 15, which is an olive. It won't be this exact same, but, you know, close enough. It's better than, you know, kind of tossing out your pens. And I have a video on re-inking markers if you have these types of pens and you're interested in how to re-ink them potentially. All right, so this one is black. I don't know, maybe I might have taken up too much, but let's see how this goes here. All right, now these are, God, I love that watercolor look. See that right there? Is there a variation in those impressions right there? That dark black and green. It's covering up the dark, you know, the birch trees a little bit more. I mean, if I look real close, you know, I can see that line a little bit through there, but it's not too bad. But here's what I'm talking about, space. Now you suddenly, it's like you're, you know, these leaves are really close to us, but then we have the birch trees there in the background. And I would do a little bit of color on those birch trees too. I wouldn't leave them just stark white. But this is just the stamping portion. I'll do some refinements, you know, maybe on these pieces. When I say stamp sketches, I mean, it's to kind of get the gist of things, but it doesn't mean they're kind of throwaway pieces. Inevitably, I use a lot of them. And I have a lot of videos on it, but I do have a big stack of, I don't know, maybe I don't know, 50, 60, 70 stamp sketches from previous videos. That sometimes I feel like finishing off, but I don't know, there's all kinds of other things that I want to do too, so I have gotten around to some of it, but in doing some tidying up and consolidating some of my stamp sketches, it's like, oh my gosh, you know, big pile of them. Okay, so here goes this leaf right in here. I don't want to cover up that completely, like going like that, so I'll just kind of bend it around like that, and we'll come over here. Alright, but there's those leaves. See that? That's one of the nice things about using big solid images, is that kind of color blending you can do on there. We have that. Alright. And I'll figure out some kind of quote over here. And yeah. Alright. So I am seeing all this stuff for the first time myself, and yeah, I'm really liking what I'm looking at. I'm wondering if I should put some stuff over here, like I don't know. I'm used to doing some other things, not just leaving things as kind of like a graphic statement. Okay, now I'm going to be using the set here, and then what I'll be doing is I'll be going back to other elements that'll come from, you know, other sets or something like that later. But let's get the foundation just going, just with this imagery for now, and then we'll see if we can come up with some kind of cool usages of it. You know, it would be kind of cool too. Let me see here. Let me see if I can get that down here. I like that look right there. Let's do that same composition, but let's do it in a blue here. This is a blue Star Dream lapis lazuli iridescent paper. Okay, let's do that again here. I want to learn some new things myself here too, and it's not going too much against the the stamp sketch. You know what I mean? I don't know. When you start doing these things, it's one thing kind of leads to another. It's just, I don't know. I'm someone that just, you know, I think you should just go with it. All right. Here's what I'm thinking. When I saw that one, and I'm thinking about, you know, adding some shadows and, you know, shade into this, I was thinking that would look really cool. Like, just like that, but on a darker paper. But then you use the white colored pencil in here, you know, after you stamp it out on darker paper, to bring out the white of the birch trees. So instead of adding shade on white paper, you add like a white colored pencil on dark paper on something like that. And I can do it on the side of the tree, like the light is coming from that way. I don't know. Okay, so that's my concept there. What it looks like in application, you know. You never really know until you do it, so. Alright, now, on this one, I'm using my black, graphite black brilliance pad. So go with something that's going to dry on a metallic paper, be it the iridescent styles paper. It doesn't even have to just be this brand, but do something that's going to work with that. Stays on. You know, a lot of you have stays on, and that would work absolutely fine for this purpose. You have some archival inks. I believe those ones would work just fine too. If I'm not mistaken, I think the archival inks are solvent inks. Okay, I don't even know. Okay, see that right there? I have used just regular pigment inks, I think, on some of these iridescent papers, and it dried fine, but then I tried it on like a gold metallic of the same line, you know, Star Dream. It's like, oh my gosh, that paper is different than the lapis lazuli, and I guess it makes sense having something as kind of more of an iridescent, whatever, mica or whatever's in that paper, to something that's actually like metal, like a metallic, you know. I guess it stands to reason why, you know, it's different. in terms of the way it takes different types of media. All right. I mean, you know, a lot of surfaces take whatever whatever you throw at it, like a cardstock. Okay. But then when you start moving into the less porous surfaces, you know, you just have to kind of play around with it, and you'll get kind of the hang of it in terms of what will work and what doesn't. Okay. Pigment inks, oil-based pigment inks, what is there? Solvent inks, hybrid inks, alcohol inks. I don't know. Maybe not alcohol inks on here, but I don't know. Maybe. There's a lot of things that I haven't used before in terms of media and surface combinations, and of course, there's just an endless array of that, and it's always kind of changing too. Okay, let's see. Here's some leaves right here. Let's come into it. Now, I didn't use that other leaf in the background because I thought, it might get too cluttered. Because this is already starting off dark, okay? So if I have kind of another layer of dark leaves and then go with another layer of dark leaves, I thought it would kind of muddle the shape of these ones, okay? Now I'm just using the left side of these leaves right here. And that's simply because, you know, I'm doing this all left-sided. Okay, so I think kind of a reverse text on here, white on dark, would look really cool. Or you can, you know, put it in a separate piece of paper and put it in here or whatnot. But white, I think a white impression, but with a little bit of white highlighted on there would look kind of neat. And, okay, you know, if this video doesn't get too long with just kind of the compositional portion of it, I'll try to finish some of these off, but I don't want this video to be, you know, too long, because it's not, you know, kind of supposed to be in the nature of, you know, what I'm doing here. But God, I feel like doing that in foil now, too. I don't know. Okay, I'll try to keep on track. So, okay, so a couple kind of foundational compositions right here. And see how that it's drying? It looks a little bit different when you stamp it out because it's wet. And, I don't know, when it starts to dry, you get that really great kind of watercolory look. See that variation happening in there? So, see, that's just, I think it's better than just stamping it out in black. Although you could do it. I mean, just stamp that other one out in black. But, you know, just with a little bit of technique of just going in there with an extra pen and blending it in there, you get this kind of more slightly rich, and I don't know, it's subtle too because it's not a huge amount of contrast in there, you know, between the black and the green, because you're getting a fusion of the black and the green mixing, you know, physically mixing and stamping out. Okay, so let's move on here. Oh, by the way, I'm stamping on glossy and matte cardstock, and that last one again was the Star Dream Lapis Lazuli. I just grabbed a bunch of stuff that I had already cut out and had ready. This one's a matte right here. Whatever I'm using will somewhat dictate what you can finish these off with in terms of, again, that media compatibility. All right, let's do something here. Let's go with this tree on one side. Okay. And I'm going to bring in some other imagery too, like some grass textures and animals or something like that. Okay, so let's go with this one. Larger imagery. Typically stamp it a little bit lower in the composition if it's of a similar or the same type of item. So, okay, so this one's, in other words, this tree right here is a larger birch tree than my other trees right here, okay? So this one I stamp lower on my card than the next one, okay? I mean, not really. I mean, you could say that this one's, I don't know, just, you know, it's a younger tree, so it's closer to you or something like that. But just in general, if you're kind of curious about it, it's not going to look awkward if you don't do that. Okay? I mean, they're not so different in scale. But if you had some really small trees, then you just stamp them up higher and higher in, you know, kind of what they call Western perspective in terms of art. It represents something farther off in the distance. Okay. All right. So this one right here. I'm going to leave a little bit of a window here, okay? So these two are going to flank this interior section here. Okay. And that leaves kind of a nice kind of entry point into our composition. And it leaves kind of this area right in here in the center, okay? For anything. You can put a quote if it'll fit in there. A sky figure would look really good, like a moon or something like that if it's a night scene. An animal would look perfectly right here, because these, it's almost like curtains, you know, opening up or something like that. And you have your figure right in there. It's a visual lead-in coming out of the forest. I mean, I could do another tree back here too, and it's just, you know, a more full forest. But, you know, if you're talking about kind of a real simple graphic statement, then just go with something like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and use some of this sedge filler down here. Any kind of grass texture would be fine. I made this grass texture just so airy and light that it makes a full kind of statement in terms of clusters. But you notice I didn't mask off my trees, okay? Because this it just merges with the textures on the trees already, and it's light enough to do that too, and airy enough. So no masking needed, all right? I tried to make my designs as, I don't know, I guess intricate and as tightly detailed as possible, but as easy to use as possible, okay? Because I know that one thing, I'm not one of those manufacturers that, you know, creates a bunch of stuff. They just kind of, you know, commission, you know, designs or something like that and never use it themselves. I'm going to use it as much as anyone, and I don't want a bunch of, I want things as easy to use as possible, okay? I don't want to be fussing around with a bunch of things. Okay, now I'm just doing a grayscale composition here. Okay, now notice I'm taking this and I'm blotting it off first in some cases. All right, just to get those lighter impressions. Okay, let's give it a good blotting off like that. Okay, now let's go for those larger impressions. Okay, let's use both the left and right side of the larger leaves. So we're creating space here. I mean, I think that looks fine as is too. I mean, I didn't have like even those branches before, but let's go with these leaves here that are really close to us and really create a lot of space within the foreground, okay? I haven't always had that in the past, you know, like a large amount of visual depth within the, I don't know, within, say, I don't know, 8 inches of the viewer or something like that. It's probably, you know, these leaves are fairly large, so it represents something that's pretty close to our eye. So I've put that space, I don't know, things before were probably 6-7 feet away. So we've added this space between, I don't know, let's say a foot and that 6 feet or whatever, you know, existed before. So I don't know, it brings us into the scene a lot closer, you know, in terms of spatial dynamics right there. But see that right there? How that really changes it, and this is what it looks like. You know, one of the things you can do too is, you know, these ones are kind of farther off in the distance. Let's do something like this. It just occurred to me here. You know, I wasn't thinking about it before. I wanted something else coming in here, but let's just leave that like that. Let's put the closer ones over here, and that's creating this flow kind of moving that way, isn't it? See how these larger ones over here and smaller ones over here. I can balance it off by putting that left side coming in this way too. Or I can put some just closer ones down here or something like that. But it's kind of creating this nice, I don't know, kind of, they call it like visual movement. It's the way that when someone looks at your piece, kind of the direction that their eye is going to travel in. So I have these larger pieces like that, and it's moving smaller that way. So it's creating kind of this diagonal movement. And diagonals in compositions can be very, I don't know, stimulating from a visual perspective, okay? I mean, these aren't things that I'm always thinking about. I mean, I wasn't thinking about that at all. It just, it occurred to me when I looked at it afterwards, okay? So you don't have to go in and preconceive, these different types of things that I'm kind of bringing out here. But those are the things that I notice kind of a lot of times after the fact. Okay, so I added a little bit of texture in there. Okay, I was saying maybe, I think I said, I'll bring in these other elements afterwards. But I just can't help it. I want to see these things. I want to see this scene, as it's developing before my eye. I get excited about it. And see that? I mean, this is one that I'll definitely finish off later. But I'll try to leave them as versatile as possible, okay? I can still do nighttime, daytime. I can add sky up here. I can add more hills in the background if we want to. Let's add a little bit of, or a little horse in the distance there. Okay, here's one of the things that I mention in my videos when I'm using objects that are standing in something like water or tall grass, okay? It's not like mowed grass here in the, the birch forest or something like that, so I'm wiping off some of the bottom of the feet a little bit. I don't know, it's about 1/8 of an inch, maybe something like that, okay? I don't want to wipe off its head where it's kind of going into the grass, that's horse's mouth, okay? But the feet are something that's a good idea to kind of wipe off, just so that it does look like it's standing in grass. It's a subtle thing. If you have the, your feet in there, it's not wrong. It's not like someone's going to look at it and say, "Oh my gosh, they forgot to. The feet should be wiped off." But it's one of those little subtle things like that. Okay. See here, I put these, these reeds down here. There's a little bit of texture and whatnot down there. These are things that too. I mean, if you don't have the grass textures or something like that, then you can just use some colored pencils down here and create a slope and some shadows and some additional textures down there. You can put a few little dots with paint pens or whatever and create your own foundation if you don't have something like this. Okay, so I'm seeing things develop before my eyes. Let's go with another one. Let's see, we've done 3 horizontal landscape formats here. Let's go with a portrait format. And let's see, what should we do? Okay, I've got stuff for text. Let's do a central impression, okay? It'll just kind of, it's like a statement about a tree, okay? If you go kind of just with centered type of thing. All right. It's just another variation. I think my stamp is on here crooked. All right. Okay. So we'll go about like so. Okay. This one is on glossy cardstock. Okay, now there's 3 trees, okay? Let's do something as well here. And let's take and maybe stamp out one of these ones over here. I don't want to overlap that one because, it's an open image. Okay, so I'll go like this. I'm stamping it a little bit higher. I mean, you can stamp it lower too, but I think higher here. Okay, see, we have those trees right there. I'm not masking that off because, you know, I can see where the image ends and the other one begins. This is fairly closely trimmed here, okay? And we'll go about like so. Let's go a little bit higher. Or we can go the same height. I don't know, whatever. Okay. I kind of tilted it out this way a little bit, so we'll have kind of vertical. And then we'll have these ones kind of off on the edges, kind of flaring off a little bit. Just for some variation, okay? All right, so you got your full kind of birch forest right there, right? And let's see. Let's do something here. Let's go for a little bit more of a kind of a, I don't know if it, maybe not full fall, but let's go for a little bit more yellow in here. Okay. So it's like the leaves are starting to churn. Okay. Oh, let's do this. Here, here's kind of a larger grass texture right here. Okay. The sedge filler could be used in there. I just used the larger texture right there. A little bit more of a kind of a more distinct texture than very subtle. Okay. And let's go with this in the background. So you see how that kind of just fills right in. That's, I don't know, you know, something, the easiest techniques that I use are often perceived as the toughest techniques. In other words, just kind of stamping over all those trees right there. When people look at the end result, they think, oh my gosh, you had to, I don't want to do that because I'm going to have to mask off all these trees, okay? Because coming from a lot of different forms of stamping, that's what you have to do. You have to mask off so much stuff. And that is it's not really a desirable type of activity that I want to do a lot, at least. Okay, I mean, I'll mask things off still, but I don't like to do it a lot. You know, stamping stuffing out, and, you know, cutting it out, or, you know, doing a lot of that type of thing. If I don't have to, okay? Sometimes, you know, there's some images that, you know, we have to do that with, but... okay, so I added a green over the whole thing. It's kind of a medium tone green. This right here was the olive green, and now I'm going into it with a little bit of yellow, okay? So, yeah, that some of that ink is getting onto my pen here, but what we always did in the past was we just take it like that and just kind of roll it. You can see some of that green coming off, and now it's just kind of back to the pure, this one's a 43 brilliant yellow, I believe. Okay, this is glossy cardstock here. Should have some pretty dynamic colors. Okay. Okay, I don't think I'll get another one out of that. Another impression, it'll be like really, really light. Okay, so green. See, I'm pulling some of that darker green of the pad off. We'll, you know, kind of get that off of that. And then we've had some lighter tones pulling off some of the darker tone. And then you go in and you add in. You know, you're not coloring the whole thing. You're kind of giving little, you know, pops of color in there. It's pops of lighter value, too, you know, when you work from darker to lighter, like that, okay? A lot of times they teach, like, if you know, things are drying out before you get a chance to do it, as you kind of, they call it huffing, where you breathe on it. A lot of it was for that second impression. I don't know, I didn't do too much huffing though, but I'm sure it worked. Alright, so get those darker impressions like that. And of course the birch trees are showing right through because dye-based inks are transparent. Okay, but what I'll do is let's come in with our larger leaves, and I think I'm just going to go with black here, okay, so that we get kind of a full coverage of some of those areas in there. I mean, you can add some green on here if you want, okay, but I don't know, I want to get some a good amount of repetition in here in terms of you know, our sketches, stamp sketches. Okay. Don't always have to work vertical, okay? Flip your cards around, I always say, and work on your pieces at the angle that's the most conducive for whatever mark you're doing with, you know, your pens or whatever, or the stamp itself, okay? So I don't always have it facing one way. I turn my card, and I find that's a really important type of thing to do. Alright, so we have that. See, that kind of frames things off really nicely as well. I think this would look fantastic with kind of some backlighting, maybe a moonlight coming through the branches or something like that. I'm already kind of thinking about how I want to finish this one off. Okay, I can leave that on here. Okay, let's give a little bit more foreground grass in here. You can add some more leaves down here too, but I think that's enough of a leaf statement in the canopy up top there. Alright, but there we have that. I mean, this one's really clearly about kind of the scene. I'm not leaving room for text or anything like that, or potentially having text in here. You can have a little bit of a peekaboo little animal in the background there, kind of, you know, from behind the tree or something like that too. But this one, I don't know, I'm thinking about, maybe I'll add some clouds in here or something like that, and I'll have the light kind of coming through it with some pigment ink or something like that. I don't know. We'll see when we get to it. That is the fourth stamp sketch here. Let's do, should we do a larger one, or should we stick to the quarter page 4 1/4 by 5 1/2? Let's stick to the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Okay, now a lot of these compositions, well, all these compositions so far, this set's called birch, okay, but you can also just use the leaves, and now you don't have to have these leaves from this set to do this. I have set number 29 that has similar ones, and in fact here's an even larger birch like that. That would be more ideal for what I'm going to do here, but I'll show you just how you can use these elements in here. These alder branches are real similar to the birch leaves. If I said these were birch leaves, unless you're a botanist, I don't think people would question it. I don't know, a lot of you live where birch trees are, so maybe you would, but there's a lot of different varieties of every type of tree, and a lot of the leaves, you know, there's variation in there. Okay, so that being said, let's get to some different types of compositions where we just use, you know, these, I don't know, whatever, larger elements off of this. Okay, now maybe we can really go to town with some of this type of coloring variations on here, okay? Let's start light and we'll work dark. In other words, I'm just going to do a composition right here just using the leaf structuring, okay? Alright, so let's see. Can we just go with... I just thought about something too. Maybe I can just do this all with certain color. If I'm doing a nighttime scene, I wouldn't use greens or something like that. Okay, let's just do the first one here. Let's not overthink this, okay? Let's try to make this go a little bit faster too. Okay, so I'm coming into it with the yellow. As you can see, I'm being super careful about my placement. I'm kidding here. Okay, so let's go like this. Okay. Let's come in from here. Boy, that sure looks watercolory. I mean, dye-based inks, the dye-based markers, another word for them, or description, is called watercolor markers. In fact, when I used to, growing up, marker sets, when I was a kid, they were called watercolor markers, I believe. Those multicolored sets. That would always go dry pretty fast, so when I was a kid, it was like, if you get a new set of markers, which wasn't too often, man, that was a good, exciting, exciting time. Having markers that were nice and juicy. All right. So I'm leaving this just right here, for like a quote or something like that, Put variation up there. I mean, that looks good as is. I'm kind of hesitant to go over it with any other imagery, but let's do it, okay? Let me see something here. I think I want something else down here too, but let's go with these larger trees here. I'm thinking this would be perfect for a little bit of white pigment ink in here, because I already see some lighting type of elements happening here. Let's do something here. Okay, here's the thing. A lot of times I do top lighting, but the lighting, I think, for these ones is going to be coming from the bottom. So on these, what I'm doing is I'm adding this green to the bottom of these leaves. See, as I go into here, I added black to it, but see, as I'm doing this, and the transfer of green is going onto these leaves, I'm removing some of that black. Okay, I might have to wipe this off a little bit, and like that. You can do something too where you take a paper towel and just, wipe that off a little bit so it looks like it's bottom lit. But, okay. Let's just do it. Just overlapping right over the top, like that. Okay. So again, what we're doing is we're isolating what we've did with the trunks, but just having the leaves like this. And it's kind of allowing or it's creating framing for whatever you want down below, Okay. All right. Now see this one down here, here's my little tweak. I think down here, it's kind of a little bit more exposed to this overall light down here, so maybe I'll take this and you can go for another impression like that, but I think I'm going to color it just so it contrasts against, those smaller leaves down there. And let's go with this olive's a little bit lighter than that. Let's see, just number 4 green, which is just called green from Marvy. Okay, so let's see, let's go like here. Let's come down a little bit more, okay. Yeah, see that right there? The variation in those leaves. And let's do the other side. Okay. And see what side, what part was the bottom part, or what part was kind of a little bit more exposed to the light. When I'm dabbing it like this, it's kind of transferring a little bit more of a puddle of ink onto the stamp right there. Just because my black pad is fairly juicy, so dry pen, juicy pad, what happens is you're absorbing a lot more ink into the pen. So you want them, kind of roughly about the same consistency, or you want the pens to be juicier. Okay, if the pens are juicier than the pad, then you'll get more of that pen ink onto the stamp. Okay, but look at that. See that right there? That green. I hope the camera's picking some of that up there. That variation in there. See that? And see these right here? See that transitioning tone like that? I don't know. I mean, it's one of those little details. I get a kick out of that. Let's just go for just straight black here. Just, we'll say this one's kind of in more contrast. You don't have to do with every single one of them, although it's fun. Okay. I think that still had some green on it, so I got kind of cheated there. I just went all with black on here, but it had some of that green from the previous impression or something like that, so I don't know. You never know what you're going to get exactly with this. Let's just go for a tiny little bit right there. All right. So it's this little canopy of leaves like that. It's almost like a bug's eye view or something like that. I think this would be perfect for. There's all kinds of things. I was thinking here you can do a meadow like this, where it's like you're really coming out of this. It could be like a butterfly's perspective too, or something like that. Great. Look at this. I guess you could go like that too. That looks perfectly cool like that too. It's like kind of going up into the sky. Oh, I know too. Like clouds in the background, like some swirling cumulus clouds. Let's try something like that. I think that'll. I happen to have that stamp right here, so. It's going to be so easy too. Okay, this is the cumulus cloud right here, and I don't know. I think this looks cool as like a sky thing, like either going up into the sky. It's like all the things are reaching up in here, or it's just like a canopy. It's almost like you're laying down. Like I said, it's like a bug's eye perspective. Ew, this pad's getting crumbly. This is a really old pad here. All my pads are starting to get really old, so they're starting to kind of crumble. These might be like 30 years old. Okay. Okay, this is just, I don't know, it's salvia blue, that's what it's called, but it's like a, in its darkest form, maybe 25 or 30% blue, in terms of darkness. Okay, now what I'm doing is I'm wiping off this top portion right here. Okay, can you see how those billows are going upwards and they're being top lit? I'm just kind of removing some of this because I want this to be nice and light and airy. If you're uncertain, just kind of wipe around the entire perimeter like that. Okay. All right. But I'll show you how easy this is to use, okay? Okay, now if I was using this in black, it's going to stamp over my lighter branches, okay? The ones that are, especially the double stamped lighter versions, this one right here. So let's just go like this, though. But because this is a light blue, you just go right over the top. You don't have to mask or anything like that, okay? And you get that cloud like that, okay? Now, let's do that same technique. You just ink it up like so. All right. And you take a paper towel, okay? Don't be too delicate. Don't just go like this around the edge. You're going into it maybe, oh, over here I'm going into it like a ½ inch or so. Over here, it's like around the entire perimeter. You're dabbing off, good, I don't know, ½ inch or so, okay? Now, with this cloud right here, overlap into it a little bit, okay? So the other impression's like this, okay? So it goes like this here. Now this next impression is going right here. Do you see how I'm going into this like I don't know, it's almost like an inch or so. But then you rotate it like this a little bit, okay? You go like this, get yourself a good impression. Don't rock it like that or anything like that. And you get your other cloud like that. And we're going to do the same around this entire perimeter here. And I think that makes for a pretty cool composition. So if you want good sky blends, just dab around your sky imagery before you stamp it out, and it's ready to go, okay? Everyone always says, oh, you make it look so easy. No, I do the things that I need to do to make the process easy, and inking up and wiping off like that, that's not a hard technique, okay? Or one that takes practice, okay? Everyone can do that, or like right away. It's just a matter of doing it and taking a couple seconds, you know what I mean, to do it. Like I said, I want easy processes. When I do my stamping, I want the easiest processes for the most dynamic results, okay? Well, sometimes, I mean, if I'm doing like 7 layers on a vellum card, it's going to take a while, but, no technique in there was hard or takes a long time to learn. It's just a matter of doing it, okay? All right, see what's coming out like that? Now we just have one more cloud to put down here. Okay, and I'm wiping off like that, and this time I'm wiping off like an inch or so, okay? So you get a little bit more freed up. Take that, just pop it right down there. No masking required. There was a ton of overlap too, but, that blue doesn't show up in the leaves. I think that looks pretty cool. Could be an overhang like that too. I like it like this though, don't you? Doesn't look like growth and, stimuli or whatever for those plants. This would be great for like butterflies or birds or something like that. I think that would look pretty cool. I usually do this type of thing with like larger pine trees or something like that, and I don't know, just having something like closer to the eye like that, and I think it looks pretty deep in terms of spatially. Okay, so let's finish some of these off in a future video. I see I'm already up to almost an hour here. How did I get to that? Well, I know how I got up to it. I was supposed to be just doing some black and white types of things, but I got too excited and had to change course a little bit here. Okay, so anyways, I would say that, this one right here is much more of like or these two right here, much more of your kind of typical, landscape stamping scene or something like that. These ones right here kind of creating more of a foundation for, I think a good graphic statement in terms of, making a card. And this one right here is just kind of a little experiment with utilizing some of the elements apart from the main elements, which of course are the trunks here. But you can make your own statements with things like this, okay? I mean, I didn't use the little branch in here. I think this little branch in here would be kind of cool, as an additional element, okay? Or something like that. And yeah, okay, so let's, I don't know, let's explore a couple of these in the next video, and we'll see how to finish these off, and I'll do some simple applications, and we'll see what they look like. Okay, so anyways, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave it in the comments section. Always appreciate you tuning into the channel.